Then, after the introduction, welcome to the third chapter of the Introduction to the Quantum Path Technology. I am José Luis Evia, CTO, and I'm proud to talk to you in this last part of 3 about the imminent reality of the quantum hybrid IT software architectures and its impact for the business using Quantum Path. If you are new to Quantum Path, let me do a fast review about what Quantum Path is, and quickly move on to talk about QSOA, or Service-Oriented Quantum Service Architectures, and how Quantum Path can help us in the design of these new hybrid architectures. And of course, we will prove it with fact. In the previous webinars, we have demonstrated that the mental process is not easy. This is a totally new paradigm and requires new strategies. The quantum providers are growing really fast, with different and amazing proposals, but the knowledge and technology is vast enough to not make reasonably easier the adoption process. aQuantum and Quantum Path wants to put the knowledge in your hands. For all those of you that couldn't see the previous webinar, we recommend it in order to understand better the contents of these events, the visualizations of the webinars in the URL of aQuantum.es. And of course, for more information, we recommend the articles and contents published in our web pages, a guide to getting to know Quantum Path, and all the references that you can find in the QPath blog and the aQuantum blog. Making a fast review about the Quantum Path core and what have we learned from the first webinar, in this cycle of webinars we have talked about Quantum Path is a software platform ecosystem. It provides an agnostic way to design quantum algorithms into a controlled life cycle quantum solution. We talk about the project management and the quantum assets catalog and its jobs. It provides a secure background, scalable, high availability, fault tolerance ecosystem that governs and monetizes the processes and tasks. All your quantum executions and results processing controlled by a powerful created from scratch BPM. And to finish these webinar cycles, we will talk about one of the more existing features of Quantum Path. It provides the connection points, a set of REST API that expose your quantum applications to the outside without effort and explode all the services of different hardware providers in order to provide quantum solutions. How Quantum Path helps building the hybrid architecture must be reviewed with the information we talked about in the previous webinars. Quantum Path will help you in the design and development stages of a complete hybrid IT architecture. Thanks to the Quantum Path services, both classical and quantum services can be designed and built almost in parallel. The abstractions of Quantum Path and its approach to services reduce the decisions to be made and establish a clear path of development, testing, and integration of both worlds. Thanks to its agnostic pipeline, it's possible to carry out the construction and testing phases against simulators or attack the consolidated results with no executions needed, and when the time comes, makes easy the decision to activate the real hardware. So, what about Quantum Path and QSOA architectures? Quantum Path will help you in the build of the next generation of IT services, QSOA, or the Quantum Service-Oriented Architecture, through our connections points future. Today, without Quantum Path, you need to design, build, and test your integrations with the cloud API of every quantum provider. If you need to interact with more than one provider, you will need to develop the abstraction needed, or have parallel projects, or plan to use other alternatives. With the evolution of a well-known paradigm, SOA, as our baseline, with Quantum Path we will easily create a new layer of quantum services and integrate them into our classical systems using a clear, homogeneous, and secure API based on a well-known open protocols and data format like HTTPS and JSON. Whatever technology you use in your IT, it will be able to use agnostically the new era quantum services. We can call to this new paradigm the quantum SOA or quantum or QSOA. Using the connection points feature, you will be able to access to your flows in an RPC way, only deciding when to publish them and how, using the publish control feature. In this moment, you will be able to populate your classical application with your quantum path application assets. Then, either execute whatever flow you need or collecting the consolidated data of previous executions, you will recover your quantum data encapsulated in well-defined classes. Of course, connection point will let you the path of required parameters the algorithm could need. At the same time, you can select your favorite quantum hardware, letting the system do the rest for you. Languages as JavaScript, Python, .NET or Java, or third-party products like SAP, Navision or Crm will be able to reuse the quantum path use cases to solve real problems using the principles they know really good. Of course, quantum path connection points has a lot of amazing features, but this will be covered in future conversations. With the power of this new QSOA architecture, either using on-premise context or using scalable cloud services, you will ever interact with all the power behind the scenes that will empowering your classical ID, creating a new era of quantum classical hybrid systems with minimal impact. Through connection points, you will interact with the ecosystem of all quantum path features, taking in your hands all the power shared with you in this webinar series. Not leaving aside, of course, the knowledge and services that a quantum can provide to accompany you in this exciting new path in the history of technology. Okay, we are now in the point that every one of you probably want to see how the connection points works. Let me show you three simple proof of concepts. The first one will show a simple window application created with the Visual Studio environment. Using C#, we will create a simple application that interacts with the REST API of the connection points to execute some kind of quantum assets. The second demo will show you a Navision use case. In this case, we are applying some kind of quantum functionality using quantum gates into the Navision environment. Using a aleatory number random generator, we will provisionate a cipher function to protect some data in the environment. And the third use case will show you how the Crm platform can populate a calendar using a QoIA algorithm that optimize some kind of rules of technicals to create the best distribution of the calendar. So let's start. Before the presentation of our demos, let me show you in a few minutes how the solutions has been created in order to populate the quantum assets we need in order to prepare the use cases. First of all, let me go into the platform using a specific account we have been defined to protect our assets. Once we are entering into the quantum path dashboard, we could see we have two solutions. In the overall information, we have defined two circuits and two flows. We have defined two solutions, the POP webinar gates and the POP webinar anneal. The first solution is mapped to different hardware machines that implement the quantum gates technology. The POP webinar anneal, on the other hand, is a solution that has been mapped to different hardware that uses annealing technology to execute some kind of quantum algorithm. We can see the definition of these solutions using in the appropriate functionalities of the quantum path. We could see different configurations of the quantum environment. And then the next step was the creation of the assets that we need to execute in our PACs. In the case of the POC webinar gates, we had defined one circuit that led us to calculate a 16-qubit random number generator. For that, for the execution of this circuit, we have defined a flow that led us to execute our circuit 100 times. So in parallel, in our run execution, we could handle 100 of truly random numbers in order to populate the ciphering algorithm that we will use into the proof of concepts. On the other hand, if we go to the solutions and click on the anneal, we have one definition of an annealing circuit. In this annealing circuit, we have defined an algorithm that let us the possibility to have three groups of technicians: an IT technicians, human resources technicians, and other technician. We have defined different rules in order to populate a calendar that will distribute the best combination possible following these rules. The technicians of the cell department must go some specific days to the office, and the other technicians must go other days. At the end, we can't have any conflict with the assistance of different members of different groups. So all the rules we have been defined into our system will provide all the Hamiltonians needed in order to define the combinations that are possible to have in our calendar distribution. So at the same way we have defined the flow for the quantum gate circuit, we have defined a flow to execute our distribution of the technicians. In this case, we need only one execution to obtain one of the best distribution possible for our rules. Okay, with all of that, we have all ready to prepare the demos of different applications of this algorithm using the connection points technology of Quantum Path. Okay, let's start with the first demo. For this demo, we will open our Visual Studio environment, and I will open our Windows Form Quantum POC solution. In this solution, we have a simple Windows Form project. Inside the project, we have only one form, the form 1, and this form 1 has different visual controls to prepare our demo. This window form has one object: test different use cases of the connection point REST API. For that, we have a section inside we can put the credentials and the URL to connect to the services. And then, in response to the connection test, we will load different solutions and quantum flows that are mapped to the user we put into the boxes. Okay, so let me explain a few how the project is designed. Okay, the form has different controls. Each control interacts with different parts of the API. So we can see that inside the code we have only one call to the connection point client and call the REST API we need in order to exploit the services of the connection point. So first of all, we need to connect, and then we can call the use case of the connection point we need. In this case, load quantum solutions in response to the connection test. Of course, if we change every box with a specific solution, we then can select different flows in order to the change. So if we go to the event that is mapped to the combo, we could see that again we can create the connection point connection and call to the load quantum flows passing the solution we have selected in the previous combo. So in order to call the REST API, we only need a piece of code that we will call the connection point client. You can create different client connections using different SDKs available in the market, but for this demo, we only have codified directly this class using a simple piece of code using the HTTP client of the .NET technology. Okay, we can see that in different APIs, like the connect or the load quantum solution, we have a really simple code in order to call the different REST APIs of the platform. In order to know what the API provides to us, we can go to the connection point endpoint of the platform, and in the final version you will see a lot of documentation and demos and pieces of code that demonstrate how each API works for us. Okay, so we can document the get version, quantum solution, devices, and so on, and all of that use cases are mapped into this class that is called connection point client CS. So in order to demonstrate how this works, let me put on the init button of the Visual Studio, this compile our C# Windows Form solution, and when the solution is running, we only need to put here our URL of the connection point services. So let me copy this part of the URL and then paste on the URL box of our solution. Then I will use our user in order to test the platform. So I will click the user QP client service that is used in the previous presentation of how the environment is prepared. Then I will put inside the password of this user and click on the connection test. In this moment, the Windows form has called to the connect client and called to the connection stage get version. So getting this message, we are already ready to call different use cases. In the same time, we have load the POC webinar gates and the POC webinar anneal solutions. If you remember that, with this user, we have these solutions available. For each of these solutions, if I click on the webinar gates, for example, we have available the random number flow solution. Remember that for that user, we have in our environment of QP, okay, for the client of QP client SDC, put here the password, and we can validate that these are the solutions that this user have, and for each solution we have every flow available to our application. So if we change from gates to anneal, the system reloads the flows available for that. So we have different flows for different solutions. And for different solutions, we have different mapped hardware machines, of course. If we change for that in the POC webinar gates, we could see that the platform loads for us all the available machines that are mapped to our solution. So for that, we only need to click, for example, in the IBM QSM simulator of the cloud, and click on Run Experiment. For that, the platform recovers the GID of this job and is executing now inside the backend of the QuantumPath platform. So clicking for as result sometimes until the result has finished. Okay, it depends on the connection of the IBM cloud storage. Okay, there will be a moment in which the system responds us with 100 random numbers. This is amazing because launching our experiment 100 times, we could see that every random number of 16 qubits, we could see that all the number recovered from the quantum machine has a one occurrence. So in 100 launches, we have recovered 100 different random numbers. It's amazing. Of course, this proof may be done using different solutions and different flows and using different technologies. For example, if I click on the Anneal solution and I select the Tech Assistant flow, if we use, for example, the XAbsolver local simulator and click on Run Experiment, we obtain a new GUID. With new UID of the job, we can click again on the Ask for Results, and instantly we have recovered a specific combination of technicians by days that the quantum machine has returned to us. So after that, we have demonstrated in this first demo how simple it is create a specific test application that consumes all the REST API services of the QuantumPath technology. Okay, now we will see our demo using the Navision use case. In this case, we will use a solution that we call POC Webinar Gates that has implemented a flow that is called random number. From Microsoft Dynamics Navision in the financial management, we will provide a use case that will validate our clients. How we will do that? Well, we have generated a hash function that validates the most critical fields of the client entity. Once we have completed all the critical data of our client, we will call to the function random number. We will get the 100 random number generated by the quantum machine, and we will use some of these numbers to generate a hash that close and validate the client information in order to detect that this will be not altered in the future. At the same time, we will demonstrate how from Navision we can connect to the QuantumPath connection path services in order to demonstrate how to get solutions and get flows and run experiments in order to test the connection from the platform. So let's go. So before how the Navision client works, let me prepare some things. First of all, we will go to the QuantumPath environment, and then we will go to our flows catalog, and for the random number flow, we will access to our Quantum Execute Runtime dashboard. Okay. So then, let me introduce you the Ibm Quantum Experience. In our environment of the Ibm Quantum Experience, we will see how the execution is running inside the Quantum Cloud of IBM, and we will see the experiment in real time. So let's go to our Dynamics Nav client. In this case, we are on the main screen, and then we will search for our customer catalog. Inside the customer catalog, let me navigate through the interface of the Navision environment, go through Navigate and Not Validated Customers. In this case, we could see a list of different clients that don't have enough data to be validated and to be okay into the system. So for that, let me search for one specific client of the list, aleatory, for example, this one, and I will fill in different data that is needed in order to complete the information. So let me put the values that are needed, for example, the CIF, and different accountability information, account information, okay, that is important for this file. Once I have filled in the information that is critical for our customer, okay, I will click on this one. This is the moment in which we can validate our customer. So I will click on Validate. In this moment, the system will start the use case. I click OK, and then the system asks me about the generation of our quantum hash validation token. In this moment, some information of the system will be taken. We will call to the quantum machine to recover different random numbers, and then we will calculate the hash value that is important to protect the client, to protect our customer. So I will click in OK. So in this moment, the system is starting to call in the process into the QuantumPath environment. So we could see every run information using our panes. So in this moment, we could see if in the IBM Quantum environment, the experiment has come. Okay, so let me click a few minutes. I suppose that the Navision client are preparing the call. Okay. So it's here. The system has processed the call. We have get the response. In this moment, we have a debug information that Dynamics Nav returned to us in order to see what the results has come. I click on OK, and then the use case continues its flows. We could see a lot of random numbers, 100 numbers, and I will click in OK. So in this moment, the system has been validated into our Navision client and disappears from the pending list customers. So if I return to our system of Navision and I click, for example, the number we have been evaluated, okay, we could see that in our nav environment, the customer has been signed with the quantum hash validated. This validated hash has used some of the random numbers following the algorithm we have implemented in our Navision environment, and that's all. The system is working perfectly. So we could see that the experiment has come to the IBM environment. If we click on this case, we could see the information that the machine has received, the random number generator, the algorithm that has been thrown, and inside QuantumPath, we could click on refresh. And we could see that for this time we have received the experiment, homologate the data, and return to the client. So that is. I can finish this demo without talking with you something really relevant about actions that we have done in this demo. Let me return to our Navision client and let me go again to our customer section. The action to protect our fields in our Navision information is really relevant if you want, for example, to be a SOX compliant in the USA. This action is really important because we are protecting the fields of our database, creating a quantum hash validation sign. In this moment, our information is protected. If someone alters this information, our quantum hash can validate that this info is okay or not in terms of protection of the information. So this is a really real use case that can have a big impact into the business information. Let me show you a nice feature we have implemented into Navision. Okay. In previous part of the webinar, we talked about the Windows Form client in order to test the API. So in Navision, we have implemented a use case that let the administrator test how the quantum computers are integrated into Navision. So for that, let me show you what this case works into the nav client. So we are searching for our menu item quantum client, okay, and you can see in this Navision form that we have similar information that we saw in our previous demo of the WinForm client. In order to test this part, we will copy again the connection points endpoint information, that is our URL, okay. Then I will put the user which is needed in order to connect, so the QPath client CVC and the password data. Then when we have that, we can try the connection. So now it's connecting to the QuantumPath enterprise services. So a few seconds in order to connect that, start a pool, connect the system, and so on. So once the connection has been okay, we can select in our Navision interface the project with the solution we want to connect to. For example, the POC webinar gates. I click in OK. Once selected the solution, we can click on the select the flow. For this solution, the Navision API are connecting through the connection points, so we can select, for example, the random number flow. And then in this case, from Navision, we can select the different hardware providers that the connection point of QPath are providing to Navision. For example, I will take again the IBM QSM Cloud Simulator, or the QS or the QAK of Microsoft, or the QX, for example, of our partner QTech. Okay, so let me click on the IBM QSM simulator. I will click on OK. So we have all the information prepared in order to launch the experiment. So for that, let me call to the execute experiment into the nav bar. So we have returned the GUID of the experiment. The job is working now. So all the information is registered into temporary tables of the Navision environment. And when the process has finished, let me click on check results. Clicking on check results, we can recover all the information that has been returned by the quantum path execution simulation. Okay, so here in the results of the experiments, we have all the information we have get from the quantum machines. So it's amazing. In this case, for example, we could select other platform, for example, the web Anneal, select the flow that represents the text assistant flow, and we could select the platform we want to execute our experiment, for example, the D-Wave exact solver simulator. In this case, we repeat the same. We can click on execute experiment. We have a new UID. This job is registered into our tables of the Navision system with all the information returned by the connection point. And again, when the system has finished, we can click on console results. Okay, in this case, I have selected the first one. I click on the second one, query results, and here we have the response of the annealing process. All this information is being stored into our Navision environment. So it's a perfect tool to test the connections, test the results, pass the information to the nav developers, and so on. So that is the second part of how we can integrate into Navision the connection points of the quantum path technology. And now it's time to talk about the Crm use case. For this demo, we have a calendar optimization algorithm published into our quantum path platform under the POC webinar anneal solution and linked to the tech assist flow, as we see before. In that case, we have the Microsoft Dynamics 365 on-premise deployment, in which we have implemented a new use case to populate a calendar that optimizes how our technicians must be organized in order to distribute the people into a bubble to avoid viruses, problems, and something like that. What's the rules? We have different technicians, the human resources, the sales, and IT people. Sales and IT can never stay at office the same day. Human resources can even stay at the office consecutive days. At the end, what's the goal? Maximize the IT assistant. So let me show how this works integrating into our quantum path connection point technology. Let's go with the Crm demo. For this demo, let me prepare a few set of things. The first thing we want to prepare is our quantum path environment. I am into the platform using the KP client CVC account. I remember that I have the solution called POC Web Anneal that codifies the annealing technology. We have a flow that codifies the text as its flow that execute our annealing circuit. Then I will go into the D-Wave sys page to enter into the lib and see that I have different configuration of my trial plan and different executions that has been executed in the platform. And then I will go to my Crm 365 in my pre-production environment. Once I inside my Crm, sorry because it's in Spanish, I will translate the commands and the buttons. I will go to our cell process and select the service button. In the service button, we have a lot of use cases, and one of them is the calendar for a quantum functionality. Clicking on this option, I will go into the calendars and I will create a new calendar. In this UI, we have implemented the solution and the flow that we have implemented into the Quantum Path. And we have two boxes. This box provider led us to select the test environment or the production environment. Because we are in the pre-production environment, we need to change this combo in order to reduce costs or test the system in the best conditions possible. So in this case, I want to select the test environment and click on the Populate Calendar button. When I click on this button, we are calling to the connection point services, and when the process finished, I get the results and I paint our calendar. The default selected date was the 28th of April. Okay? Well, with a bright fly, what we are doing, when the CRM UI loads, we prepare the authentication with the platform. We get the token. Then the user clicks on the Populate Calendar. In this case, we call to the connection point that run the job in the Quantum Path platform. Then we pull the results, get the results, and paint the calendar with the histogram that is result of the execution. Okay. In this case, what's going on? CRM acts as a client, like Navision before. Then QPath attend the connection points activations, prepare the jobs and execute the job with the transpilation of our assets, and call to the hardware provider. The hardware provider do its jobs, get the results are consolidated into the platform and returned to the client. The client then recover the data and do its business job. Okay, let me execute again in the day 5 the test environment and click the Populate button. In this case, we are calling again to the connection points, get the data, and populate this week. Well, in our platform, we could see that we have do the execution twice. So if I go to our flow and click on the execution runtime, we could see the commands when it's necessary, but I am interested in the results. If I click on the button to refresh, I will see we have two consecutive calls. In these calls, we have the name of the experiment, and we can demonstrate that we have called to the D-Wave exact solver local simulator that is running into the Quantum Path infrastructure. So we have the data recovered. In the next business use case, we will change to the production environment. In this case, I will change to production and click on Populate Calendar. In this moment, the system is preparing the load. We are calling to the D-Wave machines. So let me go to our live environment, go to the job execution list, and click on the refresh button. In this moment, D-Wave are running our business use case. So depend on the load of this cloud machine, we probably may expect to wait seconds, a couple of minutes in the worst case. So let me wait a minute in order to get the results and see how the results are loaded into the calendar of our CRM. We could see that refreshing our experiment has yet completed, and then the results will pre-processed by the Quantum Path, and our calendar are populated into the screen. We could see that the results of the production environment are quite different than the local executions. So let me test again the platform to see the variances. Let me click other day of our week, for example the 19th, and then click on the production environment populate calendar. Again, we are calling to the connection point, we are activating the job, and inside our live environment, we could see, refreshing the screen, that we are executing a new job. That is the job. So again, let me wait a few seconds in order to get the results of the quantum machine and see how the calendar is completed again. Again, the new execution has finished, and then the results will be passed to the quantum path return and analyze the histogram to paint again the calendar. Here are the results. So we could see that we have two local executions and two remote executions. we can demonstrate again going to our quantum path environment. Okay, in the pane of results, I can click on the result, and then we could see that we have these two executions with the results of the machine, with the histogram in the JSON format that we taught before in the presentations, and we have called to the hybrid binary quadratic model version running on the cloud of the wave. So with all of that, we could see that different executions in the real machine could populate our calendar using different combinations. It's amazing. It's amazing. We could see that there are different colors that never are put in the same day. We could see colors that are not coincident through different consecutive days, and we could see we are maximizing the use of the color of the IT people that are codified in our annealing process. So that is the demonstration of how can we use the connection points of quantum path into real case problems. Well, we have made an exciting journey through the QPath connection points applied in real cases and real business products, and exploiting the power of the platform seen in previous webinars. QPath technology puts in your hands a powerful tool to walk the path that makes it possible the develop of quantum SOA architectures, QSOA, based on clear principles of software engineering focused on knowledge and use cases, leaving the technology to the technology. In short, we will also be able to offer catalogs of algorithms that solve real business cases, adding more value to the product. Do not stop following us. Thank you all for attending this trilogy of webinars. Welcome to the beginning of the quantum path. We wish and hope that all of you and yours be okay. Stay safe.